Welcome to the second to last lesson. So this is going to be equations and inequalities. Make sure you label your foldable. So solving equations, solving and graphing inequalities, writing inequalities. For solving equations, step one, so these are two-step equations. We're going to add or subtract the constant or the start value. We need to make sure that we are remembering our integer rules. So for adding and subtracting, if you have the same sign, you need to add them together. If you have different signs, you need to subtract. The second part is keep what you have more of. Meaning if you have more positives, it's going to stay positive. If you have more negatives, it's going to be negative. Whereas multiply and divide, you want to use Bob the Fox or same sign positive, different sign negative. So instead of adding versus subtracting, it's just going to be positive or negative. Let's take a look at solving the equation. We draw a mirror line that just says, like I'm going to see my reflection across the line. So if I see something on this side, I need to see the exact same thing on the other side. So let's start with step one. We're going to go ahead and remove the constant. So in this case, the constant is positive 4. So I'm going to go ahead and remove positive 4 by doing the inverse, or negative 4 on both sides. Positive and a negative of equal value will cancel out, meaning it will become 0. But I'm still going to bring down the coefficient, or the rate. 14 minus 4 is 10. I'm on to step 2. Step 2 is multiply or divide by the coefficient, the number attached to x. And in this case, we're going to divide by 3. Let's divide both sides by 3. And we get x equals 10 over 3, or 3 1/3. Let's look at the next one. Draw the mirror line. It looks like on this side, our x is over here on the right-hand side. So we're going to remove this start value. That negative belongs to the rate. So this is a negative rate, or a negative coefficient. But this 15 is still positive. So step one, we're still going to go ahead and get rid of a positive 15 by putting a negative 15, or subtracting 15 on both sides. Drop down my rate, and 24 minus 15, we get 9. Now step 2, multiply or divide by the coefficient, meaning the number attached to x. This is where the rate is. The x is going to make things repeat. And negative 2 is what would be multiplied by that. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. Make sure you keep the operation with the rate. And anything divided by itself is 1. So we have 1x on this side equals negative 9 divided by, positive 9 divided by negative 2 would give us negative 4.5. All right, next we're on to solving and graphing inequalities. So here we have our little symbol cheat sheet. And the one thing to know, though, about solving inequalities is that if you multiply or divide by a negative, the symbol needs to flip. All right, so if we are going to multiply or divide by a negative, we will flip the inequality symbol. Main reason is that if you imagine if you had -5 times -1. Right here, negative is on the, -5 is on the negative side of the number line. When you multiply it by a -1, it flips to the positive side. So that is why whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you're actually going to flip the inequality sign. So we're going to go ahead and treat everything else the same about inequalities. We're going to draw our mirror line. We still subtract the constant on both sides because we have a positive constant. And we get 10, and we have 3x. Step 2 is still going to be divide by the rate or the coefficient. We have x, and we have 10/3 or 3 1/3. And right here, my coefficient is positive. So to flip or not to flip? And my answer would be not flip. I'm going to just bring down that symbol right down below. Now let's go ahead and graph it, but we're just going to do a real simple number line. So we have 3 1/3. And I'm going to decide if I need to have an open or closed circle. And if it has that equal to symbol, that means that we are going to include 3 1/3. And x is less than or equal to 3 1/3, so it will be any value less than. Another little trick is this inequality symbol. If you make it into an arrow, it points in the direction it's going to go. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Draw the mirror line, same steps. Step 1, subtract 15 on both sides. -2x and 9. Step 2, divide by the coefficient or the rate. And I have -4.5, but I have a negative rate. So I need to flip the inequality sign. So instead of being x is less than or equal to, I actually have x is greater than. And then this is kind of tricky because we have the x is on the other side. So if you want to use this little trick of the arrow, we have to make the x on the left-hand side. So x is greater than -4.5. So at 4.5, open circle, and x is everything greater, you can kind of see now that I've flipped it, then 4.5. Last part, writing inequalities. Here we have our little meaning symbol sign, more, less than or equal to, greater than, blah, blah, blah. You can read this. So you have $25 to spend at the fair. The admission for the fair is $4. And the cost for a ride is $1.50 each. At most, how many rides can you go on? So we know our total is 25. We're starting off paying $4 to get in, and we have $1.50 for each ride. We're going to let R be the number of rides. And we're going to choose our symbol. It says at most. At most is going to be less than or equal to, meaning if your mom said at most you can spend $10, you need to spend $10 or less. And we're going to write our inequality. So we have, let's go with our rates first. Sure. We have $1.50 per ride plus the $4 to get in. It's going to be needing to be less than or equal to our total of 25. So it is the number of rides that is less than or equal to. So we need to make sure that rides is on the left-hand side if we're going to just be very intentional and accurate with our writing. All right, good luck. You guys are going to do great. And only one more lesson to go. Woohoo!